Welcome to Not Hex. It's 43 OG here. How are we? We have a show with Blue Bum this afternoon, but Blue Bum's running late, so you've got me for now. And we've also got a guest on a bit later. I think Tangent and Tom Gillespie might be dropping by later. I'm not 100% sure. I sent Tangent the link. So, the free market of money. That's what we're interested in. The free market of money. Not this stuff that governments make. I mean, they can make it, but it's just not. It doesn't turn out real well, does it? So we've got BRICS who are doing their thing, and I think that's going to shake up the system. I really think that's going to make a big difference to the world at some stage. But I'm not exactly sure when that's gonna when all of that's gonna happen. I do have a clip though, so let me play that. Hey, buddy.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. You look like you literally just got out of bed.
Man, I've been traveling a bit on the other side of the world again. And yeah, a bit of I've been out and about today, but yeah, the body clocks are all a bit fucked up.
Yep. Yeah, that's fair enough. So I was just like talking about the free market of money and how I was listening to a book called what was it? The Ethics of Money Production. It's on YouTube, and it's basically like a Bitcoin standard, but before Bitcoin, because it was written in 2007, and they're like very much. And it's funny because, like in that book, they're talking about how, we haven't found a money like that, a digital money that we can rely on. Basically, there is digital money. Like obviously, there were bank accounts and stuff, but we haven't found anything we can, put our faith in. And it was interesting. It was written in 2007, and how the world has changed. In what is it? We're 2000. So in 16 years since that book was written. So and I did touch on the BRICS, the whole BRICS thing, very briefly, and I've got a little video here that I'm going to show. So let me just play that. It's a very short clip.
What happens when you let Saudi Arabia into the BRICS, given the other members? You have two of the three largest oil producers in the world, Russia and Saudi Arabia. You have two of the three largest nuclear arsenals in the world, Russia and China. You have, throwing India in and some others, you have about 50% of global population, 54% of global GDP using purchasing power parity. You can debate the method, but just if you do purchasing power parity, you get over half of GDP, 30% of the global landmass. I could go on and
on. That interview goes for a bit longer than a couple of minutes, but it's I just found it very interesting because they were throwing a bit of weight behind what's going to happen with BRICS, and he just quoted some numbers, and take it at face value. That's a quite a big proportion of of global GDP, and a lot of GDP aside, a lot of like resources, like natural resources, and that could be like partially why there's this massive move to get off, to get on renewables, because the powers that be, like the Western powers that be, might see that, look, hey, if we don't, reduce our reliance on these fossil fuels, we might be in for a tough trot in the coming years.
Yeah, but they can't get off them. And the other thing is that this whole renewables thing, it's kind of a bit of a misdemeanor, because like they need to mine all sorts of other natural resources in order to use that stuff. And I've been hearing terrible things about things like wind farms, where you need like gasoline in order to get them going before they actually start, making electricity. And then you're kind of reliant on when the wind blows then anyway. And then you've got to think about how much it costs to actually build them and implement them. So not only build them, but also run them. And solar panels need all sorts of rare earths and stuff like that. So you still need resources.
The simple solution,
for energy.
the simple solution for a few places at least would be geothermal. You would think that geothermal is like the no-brainer,
especially for Australia. Yeah.
I don't even know if we've got like volcanoes and we've got like, but
well, no, we've actually got ones that they just dig down into the desert, and they heat the water from down in the earth, and it naturally just heats it and turns it into steam and creates electricity.
Like, I'm surprised, as you know, I spent a bit of time in Italy, and if you know Italy, then at the very bottom of the boot, there's Sicily, which is like this, triangle shaped island, and it's got a volcano, an active volcano on it. And it just surprises me that, they haven't put any money into developing geothermal for that island, because that could be, cheap or free electric, like just maintenance costs, basically maintaining the network cost of and just having like free energy, and sort of like business industry comes to a place where energy is cheap. I'm just surprised that that's not the direction of some of these places, and you wonder why that's not the direction. You wonder why. But we're sort of getting a little bit off track. We don't have that much time, because why don't we get stuck into it? You tell me, because I think we've got a guest on a bit later. Do you want to tell me what you want to discuss today? And let's all have an open mind. I know what I think is the top of the totem pole. We all know what I think, but Bluey, I want to hear what you have to say, mate.
Well, yeah, I've just been playing around with the Libra wallet, Libere. I think it's. Let me just check the website so people can check it. Yeah, Libra.org, Libre.org, and they are actually, they have their own network, which is a DPoS, delegated proof of stake network, and so it's incredibly fast. And what they do is you can send like USDT, like Ethereum USDT. You send it to their wallet. You exchange it for Bitcoin on their network, and then you can actually send it to a Bitcoin wallet from their network. And
so is it like a side chain? It's like a side chain, is it?
It's its own chain. It's the Libra network is its own chain.
Yep.
It's just incredibly fast. So you can kind of like I could pay, and it's very cheap to use as well.
And what sort of?
So I could send you Bitcoin on their network.
Is it trustless?
Or USDT?
Is it trustless,
Yeah.
that Libra to Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever looked into? Is it Thor chain or something like that?
I looked a little bit into it, yeah. But then straight after I looked into it, they got a hack or something like that. It was like another bridge hack.
Yeah.
And so
because Ethereum to Bitcoin, I think they've got the most volume. They do like.
Well, that's the thing, and what they've just released.
Yeah.
Well, what Libra would have just released, like it's very beta. Like you have to ask to use the exchange. It's just testing still at the moment.
Oh, right. So we're super early on. We're definitely not telling people to go and use it as your main
Or you can go and play around with it. Like at the moment, you can go and send USDT, and that's fully kind of all done. Just what they've just released that's very beta is an ordinals DEX. So it's a decentralized exchange for swapping ordinals.
Right.
And do you know what ordinals are?
Ordinals are like ordinals, as far as I understand, is a string of numbers or a serial, like a string of numbers that's on a Satoshi or something, on one Satoshi.
It's pretty interesting. So people are kind of trying to sell you it as tokens on Bitcoin. But what actually happened was that when they did the latest Bitcoin fork, this latest soft fork, where they had Taproot. Let me just close that door. Hang on. Where they had Taproot. Taproot allowed a small amount of data that you're able to put onto a transaction.
Yeah.
And so what people have been doing
a specific
is kind of
like number of bytes or something.
Yeah, and it's very small. It's a very small amount of information.
Yeah.
It's just like 100 lines of text or something like that.
Okay.
Very, very small amount. Yeah.
Because you could do, but hang on, before there was, you could write messages in transactions, couldn't you? You could sign the message.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, famously, like there was a transaction on the very first Bitcoin transaction, which was the newspaper title of the bank's going.
It was from Vice Chancellor or something.
Yeah, the Exchequer does something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I guess you could, but with Taproot you can have more data. And so what that meant is people
maybe it's cheaper to do it. I don't know. But
I'm not sure, but I know with Taproot it allowed this new you're allowed to put more data on transactions. And so what you could do is people just made up like their own what do you call it? Like
NFTs. That's what they called it. They called it like the NFT. This is how it was marketed, or not marketed, but this is how it was put out there. It's like now Bitcoin has NFTs, and those serial numbers, now you can have those serial numbers on Bitcoin, and those serial numbers can still refer to a third-party server that's centralized, that has like a JPEG on it. Yep.
So what they did was they basically came up with their own version of an ERC20, but they called it a BRC20.
Yep.
Right. And it's dot something, like dot sats or something like that. And what it just meant was if you were the first person, like you could do things like say this token is going to have this many tokens, and you're going to need to you can get this many at a time, and they inscribe that on a transaction. And then everyone who came in after that, if they got in within that time, they could mint their own tokens. And it's all just kind of like who got there first. It's just like graffiti, but with graffiti with a timestamp on it. And so they basically kind of created their own BRC20s, their own tokens and those tokens now are being like traded. So you could trade that transaction hash or that block. And so there was a big rush to kind of like create all of these things. And I guess with the NFTs, they just put a link, like with Ethereum, it's not really the picture actually on the blockchain. It's a link to a decentralized server somewhere, or sometimes not decentralized. And it's basically like, that's how you get these pictures on the blockchain. And so it's probably the same the way they've done it. You just stick a link on as part of that text.
So it's not really a picture on the blockchain. It's just like
it's a link to a picture on a blockchain. Yeah.
It's
a link on a blockchain to a picture.
It's a footnote. Yeah. It's a footnote. It's like
a footnote. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And that's what NFTs are. Except I think on Bitcoin Cash, I think you can maybe put the full like data of a picture, because that has bigger block space.
You can do it on Ethereum, but it's going to be like a really, really crappy picture, and it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Right.
Like it's like
because it takes up all the information, takes up the block kind of thing.
Yeah, it will just cost you a lot of money. It's just not worth. It's sort of not worth it. You know.
So anyway, now they have these tokens, and they call them ordinals, and they're starting to pop up these dexes, like the See, that was Uniswap is a massive breakthrough in cryptocurrency. Oh, sorry, I've got more people fixing the water. I'll be back in a tick. Hang on.
Yep, no worries. Interesting stuff. Not something I generally get into. NFTs. The only sort of like NFTs that I'm interested in are the the ones with underlying assets such as a HSI or soon to be HMIs. For me that's where it's at with that sort of stuff. But each to their own. That's what this channel's about, not Hex.
So it's interesting because like you think of all the economic energy on Bitcoin, and a lot of those people who have Bitcoin, it just sits in their wallet and doesn't do anything. They just hold it and you can't really do anything with Bitcoin. But now what you're starting to see is you can have these tokens and you can have the NFTs. And so people are starting to trade them. And so what they don't have at the moment on Bitcoin is a decentralized exchange. They have kind of decentralized exchanges, but not in the same way as Uniswap, because it's like if you've got let's say someone set up this this token and you've got a bunch of them because you minted it, and you want to sell some, you have to kind of say how many you're going to sell. It's like a proper order book. You got to say how many you're going to sell for what price, and then you chuck that up there. And if someone wants to do that, they have to buy all of that at the same price. And so it's not the same as with Uniswap, where it's kind of like this constant price which is going up and down. Yeah.
I'm just laughing at this comment.
Yeah, got my bidet all going. I'm in Japan, hey, and like
bidets all over the place.
Dude, the toilets here are next level. Next level. Like there's this whole control pad of stuff you can do. Like it's crazy. Yeah. You wouldn't think toilets there could be so many options for toilets. So so anyway,
next they need a hand that comes up and
just wipes your ass. It'd be funny if Richard turned up to fix the water.
Sorry, mate, I threw you off your train of thought. So
basically, so Libra, because they're doing the bridge is basically their own chain, and so you can take Ethereum, USDT, put it into USDT, send it to there, change it into Bitcoin or and then you can, if you want, you can send it to your Bitcoin wallet. What you're going to also be able to do is trade like their the Bitcoin ordinals or the BRC20s on their DEX, and I think it's going to be, I haven't tried it out yet because I haven't been able to get onto it yet, but I think it's going to be like Uniswap, where instead of it's a kind of order book where you have to have the amount and how many and all of that, it's just going to be, if I want some, I just put it in and that just changes the ratio. And then you can also be able to provide liquidity with that, just like we can with Uniswap. And you can go and provide liquidity on that chain at the moment and get pretty kind of decent returns. And that's just for things like USDT and Bitcoin and their own thing, which is called Libra. But it's very new. It's very new, and it's like a lot of stuff is just starting onto it now. And I just think it's interesting to look at. Like I have no idea whether it's in terms of money, how much, if you can make money. You can make money providing liquidity, I suppose, or I mean, we're not really traders, so I hate trying to time markets and stuff like that. But it's really interesting tech, and there is a ton of economic energy on Bitcoin, and we haven't seen that economic energy kind of fall into the degen thing that Ethereum did. And I think it might be kind of coming around. And I think it could.
You reckon?
I mean, there's a ton of economic energy, and people love their Bitcoin, and they want to stay on Bitcoin because Bitcoin is, it has got that. It's it's known. Everyone knows it. Like when I ask people if they'd heard of cryptocurrency, and they're like, "What?" And then I say, "Have you heard of Bitcoin?" Like, "Oh yeah." So like, it has got that name factor, Bitcoin. Like people worldwide do know it.
Yeah. Look, I don't know. That's sort of a speculative, play.
I mean,
in
I think
essence, because you
I think the
you
one thing we can say, that one thing we can say for sure after what we've been going through, and especially in the last few months, is that we're in an incredibly speculative space. And like,
yeah,
no matter
absolutely.
what we're playing with on this kind of stuff, it's super speculative. So like, we should all like recognize that, like, and speculation means to the upside as well as to the downside. And so, like, treat it that with that risk is the big lesson.
Yep. All right. Well, that's interesting. How does that tie into Pulse Chain at all? Is there any way that you tie that into like the ecosystem that we're a part of? And once we tie up that thread, I do have Tom Gillespie in the green room. Yeah, and then we can have a chat about what he's got on the burner.
It's not tied in any way really, except in the fact that all of this stuff is becoming interoperable. So like we saw with us discussing Zenify last week, it's very easy now to move in between chains. Like you can go from Ethereum Pulse to Bitcoin. You can go from Pulse to Ethereum. And so with this Libra wallet, like it won't be too much of a step away. Like at the moment, it's only one step away from going Pulse to Ethereum and then Ethereum to the Libra wallet, and then you can be trading ordinals. So, and hopefully in the future, like something like Zenify can just add, like I went onto their Telegram and asked them to add Piteus or whatever we call it, that DEX aggregator that's on Pulse Chain. Because once that happens, then you'll be able to move between any token that's on Pulse Chain to any of these other tokens on Ethereum or Bitcoin or whatever. Or not.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on this point that like we're moving into a cross-chain, crypto world. However, I still think we're not close yet. We're not close to having trustless stuff, completely trustless. We're not close enough. There's always some level of trust, but we're not going to be able to resolve that today. And I have Tom in the background here in the green room. So I'm going to bring up Tom Gillespie, and who, let me just say, is the documentary filmmaker of, and let me bring him up because, are you there, Tom?
G'day, how's it going, fellas?
How are you, mate? Good to have you on. Good to have you on stream with us. We've seen you around the traps for like at least a couple of years now, at least, if not longer. And yeah, we've never had you on a show with us, and it's good to have you on finally, mate.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and thanks to Tangent and you fellas for hooking it up, mate. It's going to be a blinder, eh?
Well, tell us what have you got? What have you got in the oven at the moment? What have you got in the cooker?
Yeah, well, you fellas will know more than most. I've been pretty much documenting Pulse for a good long while. I'd say about a year, actually. So I've kind of headed down that path, and along my journey, just most recently, I've come across a few of these gang members. I think they're called the Tango Gang, Tang Gang. You're probably familiar with them. Anyway, they've piled into the telegrams there and hooked us up with a little project, get me testing the product, if you like. You know how I like to test the product before I make judgment. And so, yeah, G'day token came out yesterday on Pulse Chain, which is just fucking wild, really, because, I wasn't sure that Pulse would ever launch. And here we are, So
you were skeptical. Were you skeptical?
Well, there was a lot of, it's hard to navigate a lot of the FUD and the FOMO on the Twitters. So it was difficult to know what was actually going on. And therefore, I decided to just jump in and start documenting Pulse, like I say, maybe some 12, while I was making the Hex doc. So I've already gathered a lot of footage, a lot of audio, and a lot of meme graphics and what have you. I'm well on my way to producing a Pulse doco, and that's complementary to the G'day token. I think going forward, there's going to be some overlap with how the production unfolds, and this, somewhat of an experiment with the actual product itself. And I mean, obviously, it's going to be next to impossible to find Richard this time round, I'd imagine.
I love how you Australianified the name of the Tang Gang. We're going to have to start calling it the Tango Gang, the Tango Gango.
Yeah, you fellas remember Tango, eh?
I've been doing a bit of Tango lately. It's pretty fun, pretty cool. Dance.
No, I'm referring to the drink, mate. You remember the Tango? You remember the ads? They were crazy, off the wall ads, eh?
I don't know anything about
Tango?
this. Tell me, what's Tango?
They've got Tang, we've got Tango.
Oh, mate, you don't remember Tango? I guess you haven't spent too much time in the UK. The ads were all over the place back in the 90s.
Oh,
And
right.
you Google it afterwards. They were just off the cuff ads. They were cutting edge at the time. Also, an orange fizzy drink.
What's special about G'day? Tell us about your token.
Yeah, so the G'day token, first of all, was a way to just, it was kind of inspired by this GM that everybody uses in crypto. And that's shorthand for good morning. Right. Yeah, it was inspired by that. It's a polite, way to address someone, first of all. And so it was easy for people to adopt. And I think it's a clever marketing tactic in that regard. Beyond that, of course, like I said, I'm making documentaries. The product, as I start to utilize some of the features of Pulse Chain, which I'm still working out, if I'm honest, I think is going to present some sort of solution to me over time. But it's going to be related to the documentary, of course, in terms of what the fuck is the G'day token for? What's it good for, right? And I'd like to think we can go beyond your typical meme coins and your shit coins and actually provide some value here. But it's undetermined at this early stage. I mean, it's only been out for 24 hours or something, right?
I reckon you should have a contract where you can stake G'days and get a good on ya.
It's a bloody great idea, mate. How many tokens am I going to end up with at the end of this? I like the idea of an oath token as well.
I do appreciate that that idea that to actually experience the tech and report on it, you do need to actually play around with it.
Yeah, and that's often, with other documentarians, they just don't do that. They kind of they kind of barge into the room with all this judgmentalness and start poking, and it's what it is. It's repetitive. It's fucking boring, is what it is, because you just get the same type of documentaries every time. There's nothing.
Well, that was one of the criticisms of most of the content that's come out about crypto until Highest of Stakes and your Hex documentary, that most of it was people in crypto watch it and they're just like, man, the people making this content clearly know nothing about crypto. It was like an outsider's perspective where they're mainly just rehashing what you hear on mainstream media and not actually diving into the actual industry.
Exactly. And I'm quite inspired by this gonzo journalism that was made famous by what's
Hunter
the fella's
Thompson.
Name? Hunter
S. Thompson.
Exactly. I think there's something incredibly magical about that approach, not only for the audience of these documentaries, but also, people that end up being documented along the way. And Tangent would know all about that, I'd imagine, considering you were in the Hex doco. Did you make it into the highest of stakes, mate?
Well, this is not the first time that Tom and I have digitally met. We did an interview for Tom's Hexagon and the Time Value of Money documentary. Great documentary, by the way. And no, I don't think I was in the highest of stakes. I haven't seen it yet. Someone said that I'm mentioned verbally without using my name. so that like that someone claims that there's a reference to me, but obviously, like not only is that
What did
getting
they
pretty
say?
meta, not only is that getting pretty meta, but it's also like not guaranteed that it was me that they were talking about.
Could be any weird Aussie.
I didn't get a direct quote. They just said that someone says something in the documentary that they believe was referring to me.
I mean, look,
I know that sounds loose as, right? Like that sounds very, very weak.
like if
Well,
they
they
said that
actually-
dickhead Australian, they could have been, you know, they could
It
have
could have
been
been any of us.
No, it was something to do with like the partying and stuff. Like it was like there's someone in Australia that parties a lot or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that'd be you.
They reckon that was me, yeah.
Because you were quite known for that after putting a few pics up.
I think so, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah, nice
sounded
being those
reasonable
pics.
to me, but we'll have to see when it comes to Australia. I'm so keen to see that movie.
So what's
Yeah,
the story,
I'm
Tom?
yet
Is
to
like,
see it
is
as well.
it got admin keys? G'day.
Admin keys. Is there?
Because it's a
would that
meme.
be?
It's a meme coin, so there's no like. There's no.
I can tell you that it was a fair launch. So, as you know, as determined by the Tango gang, at least, that's what I was informed. Usually, there is some sort of, airdrop or an early distribution to some addresses, and from what I understand, this was a fair launch, so it was put out there, and anybody could just kind of hop in. I guess the earlier the better. I don't know. Like I say,
you can mint your own token.
And you use the token creator on what's it like the PLSburn.com, whatever it is that they've rebranded now. I keep forgetting. Guys, do you remember the name of that new Go Pulse?
But what was the initial distribution? Like, how did you distribute it?
So it was $1 trillion, the g'days, and
trillion tokens.
I distributed it by, well, like I say, the Tango gang sort of hopped in and helped me out with that stuff. They set up the Telegram chat and all that. And all I know is there's 1 trillion of them, and people keep hitting me up in the DMs saying that I need to lock the LP or burn the LP or whatever that means. I'm yet to find time to look into that and whether or not that's the right way to go. You know, there's a lot of
definitely don't burn it, but you can what you do is you time lock it so that if something like this, what happened with Pulse X happens, where the place that you put the LP has some kind of issue, then it means you're only stuck there until so it's a good balance between, it gives the community, so say you lock for a month or 3 months or whatever, it gives the community enough guarantee that it's not going to insta-rug, but it gives you some flexibility that if a bug gets found or people want to migrate or there's a better DEX to have the LP on, at that 3-month point, it can be assessed and then relocked. So you just keep,
it's a type of
relocking it.
vesting schedule, right?
So I have a question. So Tom, you don't strike me as someone who is into the code that much. Can you tell me, like, have you got a team of people that you've worked with to develop this? Are you the only person, or are there like?
Well, it's only the token contract at the moment. It's not like you don't require
exactly.
devs.
There's no team really.
There's no team.
There's a Tango gang who are being very, very supportive, and I guess we'll see how it goes. But they seem to be very positive about how things are going to unfold. So in a sense, I have a team, but we have no, agreement in place or anything at the moment.
Okay. Is this one of those scenarios where we're not supposed to know who the deployer is and that sort of thing?
Well, no, that's clearly myself, and I think that I put out a video as soon as this token went live, explaining or attempting to explain my thoughts at that point in time. I hope that provided a little bit of clarity to the people that aped into the g'day, at least, and perhaps going forward, I'll put out more videos as things become clearer, right? But I can tell you that I think it's going to be more of an organic sort of development. So I think the community is going to play a large role in how this thing unfolds, rather than me playing, you know, benevolent dictator or whatever, which I'd be happy to play that character.
Can I make it like, this is, as someone who doesn't hold any of these tokens whatsoever, and generally that is the position I take with any token that we bring onto this show, Not Hex, is I don't hold any of it. And if I did hold something, I would let everyone know. I would there would be full disclosure. So I don't know anything about this token. I don't hold it. As a suggestion, could it be possible? Like, is it an idea that you could use this token as a way for you to monetize the work, the good hard work that you put into making documentaries for this community? Is this something that you could potentially monetize in this way, so that people can gain access to your content, maybe by you know, having these tokens as an idea?
Absolutely, mate. And I think that's, you know, the default idea, which has come up a number of times, is, you know, token gated content and what have you, which is fine, but it's kind of dull. And something I've been talking to the fellas at BitJoin Studios about is how can we make it a little bit more gamified, a little bit more, you know, participation from the community. And you guys might remember Choose Your Own Adventure books. When you were a kid, you used to have, you know, jump to page 38 and you'd hop around and you'd kind of choose how you went through the book. And I think,
yeah, I remember this.
That was kind of inspiring here, because what could possibly happen, I don't know how the tech will kind of, you know, connect to the narrative or the story development, but you could have a way to incorporate the G'day into actual audience participation within, you know, the story development itself. I'm not exactly sure how that looks practically, but I think it could make for a very interesting way to, like I say, have the people that are involved in or you know, enchanted by the story to somehow play along. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yep, somewhat. I mean, it's abstract. But yeah, if you were using that analogy of choose your own adventure, I sort of get where you're going.
So people paying G'day for the story to go in a certain direction. Like, and if they want,
that's one approach. You know, you would have seen Bandersnatch, Charlie Brooker's Bandersnatch. He's got this kind of, you know, does the guy murder his father, or does, you know?
Is this
split, the story split?
The Netflix one?
I think it was on BBC 4, actually, BBC 3.
There was a Netflix. It wasn't. I think it might have been Black. Oh, I don't know if it was Black Mirror. There was an episode.
Charlie Brooker's the Black Mirror writer. Exactly.
So
yeah, we take that to the next level, right? So the story splits, and instead of hitting yes or no or whatever the options are, you could have a weighted voting selection method where the community's like, you know, they are deciding in real time in which direction I go to pursue this investigation, and then the next episode.
Oh, that would be so
I'm
cool.
seeing it as like sequential.
That would be a weekly.
Oh, dude, that'd be cool.
You could do like weekly or like, so people have an opportunity to watch it and then vote before a certain time,
and would the votes be linked
determine
to
which way
tokens?
you go with that investigation. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
and like, for
Would the
example,
votes be linked by the token, so it'd actually be like a choose your own adventure documentary by a DAO. Like,
that is unique.
That's actually really cool.
That is cutting edge, unique. No one's.
I need people to step up and help me build that shit out, because again, technically, I'm incapable of doing that. But I mean, theoretically, I think it could work beautifully, because you can already picture it, right? Tom's investigating polls.
So you don't
Who
have
does
to
he
build
need to talk to? Present like 3 or 4 targets, and then
Tom, you're complicating it
decide.
unnecessarily. You're complicating this unnecessarily. You have an address for this option 1, an address for option 2, an address for option 3, an address for option 4, and people vote. They just send
G'day to one of those.
They just send G'day to the address.
That's true.
like that's you don't need to complicate these things, mate. You know.
The only
Oh, so
problem
you
is
don't
of
want
course,
people to be able to vote and retain the tokens, like, and have a vote in. You have to send the tokens to vote. Like, you have to burn them.
You got to send them, not burn them. You have to send them.
Well, it could be a burn address.
the issue.
Like,
It
it could be a burn
really.
address. Oh, sorry. It could be a burn address or an address to actually fund the movie.
Exactly, and this is the important part, right? Qantas doesn't take G'days yet, but when they do, what's going to happen is you'll be sending them to my Qantas, my travel expenses address, right? And be like, right, you need to go
They've
to
just got
Hawaii
yes tokens at the moment.
and interview with this one of these fellas, right? And then it meets the budget. On he goes. Me and Tomo go and shoot the interview. We get some sick B-roll of Hawaii, whatever it is. Cut that together, and the next episode comes out on Friday, right? So this is a way to make this kind of perpetual series, which potentially never ends, and kind of turns me into a bit of a fucking puppet, actually, which like I need to look at the terms and conditions there and make sure that I don't get
slave to your own token.
Tom, you could have this like addresses, and if people send it to that address, it goes directly to Qantas, which gets you a ticket to the next place to go to. So you every week you just have to go to a different place in the world.
Do they still do mystery flights? Do they still do mystery flights where you buy it and you don't know where you're going?
Probably.
That's fucking cool. That's a cool idea. I like that. Just could end up anywhere, Poland or in Ukraine even. Yeah, no, that would be messed up.
Hey, by the way, 43, in the spirit of transparency, so obviously normally I try not to talk about any of my financial stuff publicly, but I think you've got a good point.
You've gone all in on G'day.
I should mention that I've been really impressed with this Tangang, that Tom's coin, and this is just the latest, success in terms of awareness and engagement that they have done. I've been really impressed. And I actually own somewhere between a total micro nano bag and a small bag of every single coin on their list. Nothing huge, nothing massive. Like, as in, I'm not a whale or heavily invested in any of them, but just to feel like a team player, and so that I can share genuinely in the excitement if one or more of these tokens is doing cool shit.
You're a Tang machine gun.
I just fucking shotgun approach. Like, any coin that becomes a part of this particular group, I just buy a little bit of it.
And cool. How many X's until you sell it? Do you dump it all?
I guess no plans to sell, because it's these are such small amounts of money.
Only after you buy in, Bluey. That's when he says.
We were joking around saying as soon as Moon King buys in, that's when you sell.
So guys, we this show, it's not like the Hex Late Show. This is a very short and sweet show. We go from 4:00 Melbourne Sydney time to 5:00, so we've got 10 minutes. Is there anything that we want to, any threads we want to tie up, or anything that we want to get out there?
There was one thing I thought of to do with Tom's coin, is that I don't think I've seen an Australian themed meme coin before. That was, in terms of, you guys were talking about like what's unique or whatever about the coin. That's a first, in my opinion. And I heard you guys talking about the Bitcoin ordinals before I came on, because I was listening to the show. And the data for the ordinal actually is fully inscribed on the Bitcoin blockchain. I still don't like them, by the way, but it's not a link to an external source.
But the actual picture is not.
The
data
for the picture is on the blockchain, but you need an interpreter.
Oh, you're right. So
you need an interpreter. That's the part that I still don't. That still doesn't make it, like, the image is not actually on the blockchain. It's the data, but it's not that thing that you guys were talking about. It's not like the ERC, the Ethereum ones, where it's just like a link and
serial number
stored somewhere else. The data is actually on the chain. I just wanted to correct that.
Yeah, thanks.
And there was one other thing that you guys said that I wanted to comment on, but it was a joke thing. Were you guys talking about some
hand in the toilet that comes off?
The Japanese toilets. Thank you. So when you said a button for it to wipe your ass, it kind of does actually have that button, but it uses water to do it.
Yeah.
And I thought it
No,
would be
we want a
funny.
hand. We want a hand.
You want it physical. You want it physical.
Yeah.
And I
Because
thought
you
it
could
was funny
hack it.
'cause you know how-
You could hack
you know
it to
how
do other
RH
stuff.
You know how RH did
Tickle
install that
you.
bidet? He maybe should have just gone straight to the Japanese toilet. And by the way, there's a South Park episode on those Japanese toilets as well, if you guys are interested. But those were the
So I
three
don't-
things that I wanted to mention.
I just
I'm
want
a
to.
big
I still wanted to ask about like the G'day token because, like,
Sure.
Tom, you've obviously like you've gone, okay, these guys are cool. They said, yeah, it's easy to launch a token. Let's do it. And you've said, okay, we're going to launch this G'day. Like, are they all minted? Like, does a trillion of them just get minted and you control the initial trillion, and then you decide to make an LP with something, and that's how they get distributed?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but I believe the whole trillion was minted directly, and then they were put into an LP.
So you don't even control them necessarily. It's not you that.
Mate, I don't even know what the price is right now. All I know is that they're trading against a whole bunch of other meme coins on Pulse. Right, there's one called Pussy. I think it's even trading against, right? I'm trying to keep up, but shit moves very fast.
Is this in a
I
Fux
know
pool?
that
In a
Pussy Cat coin,
PHUX? Is that in a PHUX pool? I mean, you're saying it's trading against lots of others. Is that like how it's sorted?
I need to double check.
No, I think these are Pulse X. These are Pulse X V2 LPs. But he's just saying. So what happens in the Tangang, because it's like these crossover communities and they're obsessed with like collaborations and that they think that's how everyone wins together, which is like, I think that's a reasonable thesis. Lots of people from the communities, they pair their coins. So you'll see lots of crossover LPs. So the first LP that was ever created for Tom's coin was actually with HOA. So it was actually with the original coin of that group, the Hex Orange Address coin. And then after that, someone else made an LP that was actually with Pulse for Tom's coin. So G'day HOA existed, and then G'day Pulse, and then obviously someone else has gone in there and made G'day Pussy, and then there's various different ones. And you'll notice if you go and look at those other coins, they all have heaps of crossovers as well between each other, like Furu and NBC and stuff like that. There's heaps of crossover pools. My understanding so far is the initial supply is the circulating supply is the total supply, i.e. the full supply was created at launch, and 100% of that supply went into the LP with HOA.
100%.
So the person that made the Pulse LP must have bought supply out of the HOA supply LP, and then paired it with Pulse.
So it was 100% LP with HOA.
I think so. Tom, do you know if it was 100% or?
I don't, mate, but I can double check. I was guided by the Hex, by the Tango gang fellas. So, but I've been documenting it. It'll all be seen in the documentary that eventually gets made. And
so I think the Tangang saw a post. Someone in the Tangang saw a post by Tom saying that he was thinking about playing around with a coin, and replied to him and said, "Hey, we think a good environment for you to do that in would be the Tangang." So they didn't go and approach Tom and said, "Hey, like you should have a coin. Let's do a coin sort of thing."
It was actually Bitman 360, mate. He sparked this whole thing about it back in April. It was Bitman 360 that suggested, and like I responded to that tweet recently, and I guess the Tangang saw it. But as far as I know, like I haven't looked at what's going on with it since we launched it, but I don't know. It looks like people are having fun with it so far from the chat, at least. And
does Bitman 360 have a claim to fame? Like, as in, does he have his own project, or is he of a specific community?
He's got his scooter coin thing still going on, but I think as soon as they went from proof of work to proof of stake, it got copied by some Chinese fellas and rinsed out. So I think he's looking to relaunch that. Maybe he should also put it on the Pulse chain and have a little bit of a competition against the G'day.
He should just join the G'day community and make the whole thing like a meta loop.
He'd make a fucking good fake influencer for the G'day, that's for sure.
Well, Famous has got the Furu token, and that's kind of like trying to imply these fake gurus, fake influencers.
Yeah, I saw that. No, it's going to be interesting times ahead, mate, and I'm pretty confident it's going to make for a good documentary. That's for sure. And that's where I shine. I'm not the tech crypto nerd like Bitman. I don't know the details. I'm blessed to have the Tango gang helping me out. To be honest, they're very helpful, very nice bunch.
The chat's.
Yeah, I was just about to say they're
getting
losing
into
it in the chat.
The pussy pool. Which is,
yeah, there's a few funny comments about this thing. I could say g'day to some pussy.
Par excellence, if you play with the pussy pool, it might get a bit
deep
more
is the
liquid.
pussy pool?
Yeah, Doz is in the chat, man.
Well, at least we know it's.
Doz should come on this show. Like,
at least we know the pussy pool is wet.
Dive in.
Oh, by the way, so I know you want to wind it up, so I won't go deep into it. But I was in a Twitter space where I learned a whole bunch of new things and new resources and stuff like that. Nothing to do with any specific coin. These are general things. We'll need to chat about it, and maybe we could do it on a different show, or I'll just send them to you by DM or whatever. But I'm really excited about DeFi on Pulse Chain and things like Tom's coin and that sort of thing. Everyone experimenting and doing different things, I think, does end up leading to you end up finding out what's good, what time it is.
Pulse Chain, Chad, what's this address that you've put in there? What is that address?
Is that the G'day address or something?
I don't know.
Yeah, the contract address has been published widely, so I guess you can double check what's going on.
Oh yeah, there's a Telegram group. It's growing fast, actually. I was really surprised because the Tangang has I think just over somewhere between 300 and 350 people in it, which is tiny for the amount of engagement and content they pump out. Like, we're talking this insanely disproportionate activity for the number of people in that group. But I wasn't expecting a huge proportion of those people to just go and join a new Telegram group. But Tom's group's now got it's over 75 people, which is, when you look at that as a proportion of the Tangang, that's heading nearly to a third of the group. So and the number of people in that Telegram group has just been on the rise ever since.
It's like niche of niche of niche of niche in
crypto,
hey?
I guess it's a constant theme that most of the coins within the Tangang, I think, is it all of them or most of them? I think they're all meme coins. They're all meme coins. They're technically at this stage. They are talking
the interesting thing about all of this, we've had just an explosion of meme coins on Pulse Chain. And the interesting thing is that because they have such low liquidity, it's not for the big boys. Yes, you can't go in and drop a lot of money on them.
That's actually
you're just gonna get this the most ridiculous amount. I was thinking that.
It actually makes for a great play for people that aren't moving in huge scale, because it actually locks those guys out. Yeah. So you can actually make a play without competing against these guys that are just going to come in and just dominate the supply and whale everything. Yeah.
But if they came in and did buy a big portion of the supply, they would push the price against themselves
Well, typically what happens though is those guys eventually do come in once the thing scales up. So once the liquidity pool gets and once they think they can move in and scale, which is the way that I like it, where this is kind of like the ethos that Hexy Bastard bred into his idea of this poor pleb thing, where it's like you try and create mechanisms that penalize the whales. And even Richard had some, how he had silly whale penalty and stuff like that. Any attempt to give an advantage to the lower socioeconomic players, I think, especially in the early stages of a project, I think is great.
Yeah, you look at some of those
it's
LPs.
By the way, it's not possible to do it perfectly. There's no such thing as a perfect launch, fair, equal distribution. That's difficult. It's always compromises. There's always compromises involved.
Zen was a fair launch. Zen was more fair launch. I don't think you can call this. I don't think you can call this a fair launch.
Get a benefit? Don't you get these benefits? Like if you mint and then someone mints after you, then there's that benefit from being early. So that's not fair.
Well, yes, it is.
I guess these are all examples at attempts, or at least if you believe what they say at face value, they're attempts to be fair. Even
there's no perfect
against WorldCoin because of this iris retina scanning thing. But if you believe what they say, that's an attempt to get a fair distribution so that you don't get botted and people can't double claim because it's something that you can't fake. So I think there's all these experiments, and some of them I like, some of them I don't like.
There is no perfect.
I don't think there's a perfect launch.
There is no perfect launch. There is no perfect.
Well, it depends how you define perfect or fair. Like, are you saying equal distribution to everybody in the world? That's what the definition of fair is?
No. The reason there's no. Can I address this for 1 second? The reason I say there's no perfect launch is because you're never going to get consensus between everyone that the launch is perfect.
Yeah, there you go.
So you never get a perfect. For that very reason, there's no perfect launch. By the way, I just want to point out
you can't keep everyone happy.
That's right, and I just want to point out that I'm all for people like the free market of money. I'm all for people being able to make their own thing and it having to compete in the marketplace of money. I think that's fair. Now, you guys know where I stand when it comes to what I think is at the top of that, the mountain, so to speak. You guys all know that it's for me, it's Hex, even though this show's called Not Hex. You know that's what I believe.
Was that the totem pole that you mentioned at the very start of the stream? I was only half listening at that point.
Yes. Okay. Exactly. So I'm just,
I'm also Hex. I'm also Hex.
And Bitcoin and Ethereum and Pulse Chain.
Not Ethereum for me.
Yeah, no.
I'm Hex, Pulse, and Bitcoin.
We're talking about a marketplace of a free marketplace of money rather than having the powers that be, like a group of people in a closed room making financial decisions that affect everyone in the world, right? So that's what I'm for. I'm open for an open marketplace for everyone to be able to do whatever they want. I'm very clear about what I like, what I think what I think is the right formula. But as we just said, Tangent, nothing is perfect. Nothing is perfect, and that's why we want that freedom of ideas and the freedom of money to so Tom, did you want to say anything just before we wind it up?
No, I'm good, mate. I just appreciate being invited on the show, and looking forward to seeing how things unfold. I will be bringing myself up to speed. I'm sorry I've been busy with other shit lately, and no, I'm ready to make a good go of it. So
cool, mate.
Contract
That's good.
Very good.
There. Very good to have you on the show. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
and I just on that point that I made a second ago about the freedom, free market of money. Did you hear about that Shiba Inu bridge failure?
What?
Of the Shiba? There's a Shibarium or something blockchain, right? And what happened? Listen to this. The bridge failed and all the ETH is fucking gone.
Oof.
All the
ETH locked, like as in
it's fucking, they can't get it. So that's
great for Ethereum holders. Buy and burn, baby. Bridge and burn.
No, but
Bridge
it's
burn.
Like fuck around.
Let's go.
Listen, the free market of money, fuck around and find out. You want to make sure fuck around and find out. Right, because you play around with that shit and that shit gets locked. You lost your Ethereum, and then you can't even get onto that blockchain. So I'm glad that we play around with things that are working.
And Base has been a freaking nightmare, bro. Like for people, I faded the shit out of it. But for people that tried to use Base, both DEXs rugged. That's just been an absolute cluster, man.
Yeah,
that's been an absolute cluster. It's
just
Look,
we're in DeFi. We're in DeFi.
Worse than Binance. It's just terrible.
In DeFi,
mega fail.
There's 10 options for you for everything you want to do. in true DeFi, it's decentralized, and that gives it the property of censorship resistance, which means that no one can stop you from doing a transaction, because that should be your right to post maths on the internet. So, Bluey, do you have anything you want to say? Tangent?
Can I outro? I just wanted to apologize to Bluey about the Zenify thing. I should have trusted him more with that. It's not actually related to Zen, and it actually works really well. I've tried it now. It's great. Bluey's usually ahead of the curve on these sorts of things, and so that's dope. Wanted to say that publicly, and just shout out Tangate. Keep doing what you guys are doing.
Awesome. Bluey?
I think we're very obviously in the depression stage of the Wall Street cheat sheet. And so I just want to tell people, keep your chin up. Like, it can't get much worse than this. I don't think. And who knows? And I love all this playing and experimenting with stuff. And it's amazing what a week or even a few months can do in crypto. So keep playing.
Massive shout out to everyone in the chat. This is a new channel, so to have 25 to 30 people watching is a big deal. Thank you very much. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next week.